Let's go. Let's go. Come on in. Come on in. We got a lot to learn. Last time we was here, it was a Range Rover. People said that somebody, a YouTuber, seen somebody get shot, take his own life, but it turned out that that was false. It was really a hit and run, which is still tragic, but it wasn't related to the Nancy Guthrie. The guy that was actually in the Range Rover was arrested. I believe they were released now. There's a bunch of things going on with Nancy Guthrie. The sheriff department, the FBI still looking like they're not cooperating with each other. It's a lot going on. So let's just get to it, man.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I appreciate all the support. Today's Monday, a lot going on with the Nancy Guthrie investigation. First of all, brand new reporting that I have confirmed about the FBI showing up to gun shops in the Tucson area with a list of 40 names and 40 photos. What that could mean, I'm breaking it down.
I mean, they got 40 people they about to raid.
Also, the sheriff now officially clearing the Guthrie family, the siblings, and their spouses. I've got my FBI panel, my expert friends joining me to discuss that. Also,
But we know that don't mean anything. I think we've seen that in cases before. The FBI like, oh no, don't worry about him. It's not that person, and it's really their number one suspect. They just want to see them move certain ways.
Information on the DNA and what is taking so long when it comes to the DNA testing and getting that information in the CODIS database, which I'll explain why that's so important. And the possibility of more than one suspect actually at Nancy Guthrie's house when she may have been taken. All of this is coming up in this episode of Brian Ensign Investigates. Hey guys, so a couple of big developments.
Of course, who thought it was just one?
First, which I was just talking about, but I have confirmed that the FBI has been to several gun shops in Tucson, and they've shown up, the agents have shown up with a list of 40 names and also 40 pictures, 40 photographs. And they are showing the names and the photographs to the gun shop employees to see, one, if any of those people have been inside the gun shop, and two, if any of them have purchased a weapon, which is significant because that means perhaps that there's 40 people that they're interested in, that they're narrowing this window down.
That's a hell of a lot of people.
It's also possible that some of those people they're interested in, like sometimes when they do lineups, and I don't know if this is that kind of a situation, but they'll throw other pictures in that are just irrelevant. But what I do know, again, is that they've gone to several gun shops with a list of 40 names and 40 photos trying to figure out if those people have been inside the gun shop. So these aren't just like pictures where they're saying, do you know who this person is? They have the names. They just want to know if they've been in the gun shops in Tucson. So that's new, and that's pretty interesting. The other thing...
That's a lot of people names. 40 people.
Thing that's new today is that the sheriff has cleared the Guthrie family as being suspects in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, you know, the siblings and their spouses. And let me read you the sheriff's statement because it was a pretty intense statement. And this is pretty rare to see during an active investigation, a statement like this where people are outright cleared. And he hasn't done this in the past. I mean, he sort of alluded to it, but remember he said in the past, like, we're not, everybody could be a person of interest, but this is what he's saying now. He said, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. And then he goes on to say, to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So
that just made me think that they're guilty even more. When does the sheriff come out when they have a list of 40 people that could possibly be the suspect, but they're ready to clear these couple people? It sounds like he just want them to go on as business as usual. But that just made me think they're even more guilty. He's gonna be like, it was actually them all along. We just needed them to act out whatever and get in contact with his buddies.
It's kind of an emotional statement that he's giving, and he's clearly fed up with people calling out the Guthrie family And it's been an issue just in general with this case and other cases I've seen. I mean, people start putting photos on social media claiming that people are suspects, and it can really do a lot of damage to obviously their reputation, and it's just, irresponsible. So but the big news is flat out now we know that the Guthrie family has been cleared. The other new piece of reporting here has to do with, you guys know that this glove that was found 2 miles from here at Nancy Guthrie's house is being tested. The FBI says it matches the glove that was on the suspect in the surveillance videos we've seen. We know that it's being tested and it's going to be put into the CODIS database, which is this FBI database of DNA, mostly criminals, where they can go and they can cross-reference and try to figure out who the DNA belongs to. But we're learning about now delays, and it's, whenever you're watching this, I'm not sure, but right now it's Monday night. We've learned that it's still not in the CODIS database, and my colleague Libby Dean, a correspondent who works in Washington, D.C., has some sources saying there are unnecessary delays in getting DNA into the FBI database. Let me read you what she's reporting.
Okay, so maybe the sheriff had a reason for sending it to his private lab. They have a little glove and they can't get into the FBI database. So maybe the FBI facility in Quantico isn't the best choice, and the sheriff knew that. See, maybe the sheriff ain't have no smoke for the FBI. It's a possibility.
She says the decision to send the glove with DNA to a private lab in Florida is causing what one source familiar with the case calls unnecessary delays in getting the DNA entered into the FBI's CODIS database. That's because the FBI does not accept DNA submissions directly from private labs. Instead, once testing is complete in Florida, it's likely the DNA data extracted must first be sent back to the state of Arizona, where it can be uploaded and becomes shareable with the FBI for entry into CODIS. That extra step adds time, creating what the source describes as a catch-up process when the FBI could have processed and entered the data within a day, according to the source. So basically, the FBI is saying again that...
I guess I was wrong. It's still smoke. It's up in the air.
Because the Pima County Sheriff's Office did not send this DNA directly to Quantico, to the FBI facility, and instead sent it to their private lab in Florida, that it's slowing things down. Of course, the Pima County Sheriff has come back on some of that criticism in the past and said, look, we actually talked to the FBI before we went with our Florida lab, and we were all in agreement. So it's still kind of tricky there. You got two different people telling two different stories there, but it sounds like, according to Libby's source, there's a delay now in getting this DNA into the CODIS database because it went to the private lab in Arizona, which is interesting. I'm joined now by Maureen O'Connell, retired.
That's a weird bottleneck, though. If Cash Patel say, hey, this sample is coming from this lab, accept it, then they should just accept it. Like, they're really doing this rigmarole, and they got to send it back to Pima County. Pima County got to put it in their system, and then from their system, they got to put it in. That's stupid. Come on.
FBI agent and friend of the show. It's nice to see you again, as always, Maureen. And Morgan Lane, who is worked in forensics for a long time, is new to the show, is friends with Maureen. And just, if you don't mind, Morgan, just tell my viewers a little bit about your background before we start.
Sure, of course. Yes. So I've been working in the field of forensics for approximately 22 years. Primarily, all of my investigations have been major crime scene investigations, to include homicides, attempt homicides, sexual assaults, all the way down to burglaries. My career was in LA County, and I was finished my career as a forensic supervisor at Hawthorne PD.
Great. Well,
just
it's nice
a
to
few
meet.
days ago. She just finished a few days ago.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're happy to have you on. Thank you so much, Morgan. I want to start out reading you this, Maureen, though, because this just happened. This is a new statement from the Pima County Sheriff. And what he says is, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I am begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. So I wanted to see what you think, Maureen, because he's sort of alluded to that in the past, but then he's also said things like, well, everybody's still a person of interest. But now he's being very clear in black and white that they are cleared as possible suspects, and that includes siblings and spouses. What do you make of it, Maureen?
That's the most definitive thing he's ever said throughout this entire investigation. So I'm glad to hear it. If that's what the whole investigative team is saying, then that's what we got to go with for
Do you
now.
think that means that they may be closing in on someone? That's what I thought. Like, does this mean that if they're clearing all of them, does that mean they may be getting closer to finding who did it?
Oh, my bad. I guess we gotta give Tommaso apology letter.
Yes, I think that's exactly what this might mean. And we're expecting DNA results as early as today. So they may be planning something big within the next day. Might get, maybe tomorrow.
You've sort of got the sense, Maureen, that something has been building, that we may be getting closer, maybe even this week.
Yeah, I've felt this inertia building for the last week or so. And it also comes from the experience of being in big investigations where you've got subpoenas out, you've got the DNA information out. They're telling us it's going to come back. We executed search warrants. The search warrant information caused us to subpoena more people. You've got some people
Yeah,
probably under
funny.
surveillance, other people with the whole phone situation and all the advanced technological stuff that's happening. It's all just coming together. When you add into that the tips and leads and then how they doubled when they doubled the reward, we've got a lot of information pouring in, getting merged and purged every which way. And I just hope that it's go time.
I want to ask you, Morgan, because there's been a big focus on the DNA the last couple of days because we know they found DNA in Nancy's house, and then they also found DNA on this glove 2 miles away from Nancy's house that apparently the FBI says looks like the glove that the suspect was wearing. How did they go about? I'll start with the glove. How would you go about processing a glove like that?
So when we get evidence like that, we're looking for the biological evidence, more like trace DNA. So skin cells, sweat, things like that are left behind inside of the glove. So we bring it back, we process it, swab it, and then send it to a lab, whichever lab of your choice. Obviously, the sheriff in this case had a lab in Florida. But so we're going for those touch DNA, that skin cell. I mean, it's a little bit difficult only because you have that glove 2 miles away from the scene. But obviously, if it comes back with a profile, it's investigative lead, and they can hunt it down.
The fact that it wasn't found, it was found almost 2 weeks later. Is that an issue? I mean, it hasn't. I don't think it had rained at that point, but it's still, outside here in Arizona.
I mean, it can have effects on it, but I mean, the bigger issue is going to be down the road in court. But either way, the goal obviously is to get Nancy back. So if they're going to swab that, get
Yeah.
some DNA from it, and then run that lead down, then that's the ultimate goal. How it holds up in court might be a little bit trickier later because you're talking, like you said, 2 weeks down the road, 2 miles away from the house. I mean, it's a good defense if someone wants to ask later, could that glove have been, thrown out when he was on a walk or when he was driving down the street or however it got there.
Yeah, you talk about defenses. I was thinking that too, just that they acknowledge that there's been so many gloves that have found and that search.
Yeah, wasn't it like 60 gloves? That's crazy. People, if you go help somebody that's missing in a search party, don't litter on the ground so the FBI that's trying to be out there getting evidence come across your glove. For 60 people to just, or more, because maybe some people just took off one glove.
Have dropped gloves. I mean, that seems like a defense attorney would just key in on that statement that they put out. With Nancy's house, though, they've said that
Brian, can I weigh in on the gloves?
Yeah, go. Yeah, always, Maureen. Just feel free to jump in.
When we're talking about the gloves that they found, those 17 other ones, you have to understand a couple of things. Number one, they had like a bunch 60. Of searchers out there. I think they said at the beginning that they were volunteers. And, they have this whole contingent of people, sworn and unsworn, and volunteers that come out to do all their search and rescue stuff. So they have a different sense of evidence and throwing things away than maybe a sworn person might, or a person that works on a forensics team like Morgan does. But also, we've had instances where we put them all in a bag, and then the bag blows away, and then we have gloves all over the place. And I just think it was. Morgan, do you have any experience with that?
Yes, I mean, generally speaking, at crime scenes, we create trash bags that's specifically for our discarded wear, whether it's like biosuits or gloves, you know, water ampules that we're using. We try to keep all of our trash in one location, but you're right, things happen, potentially a windy day. I mean, it's Arizona, the elements are obviously part of it. I would say though, with that glove, if you're going back to Nancy, if they're going to say whether or not it came from the suspect, like if that's going to be defense down the road, I mean, if Nancy's DNA is on it, now it's a whole different ballgame, right? Because if he's grabbing her and then he discards the glove, you should have both suspect and victim on it, which now is a little more difficult to prove. You know, why is that glove deposited out there with both victim and suspect DNA on it?
Yeah.
And then one other thing.
As if it's that person's and Nancy's DNA on it, that's enough for a warrant. If you get a warrant and then you find Nancy's alive or dead, then that's enough. Like, nobody's gonna care about your lawyer defending on how y'all got the glove in the first place. It don't matter. We found him with Nancy.
And one final thought on that is, I have never, ever in 25 years working crime, have I ever worn black nitrile gloves. I mean, I've worn blue ones, white ones, but we don't wear black ones because I always felt it was important to wear lighter color ones so that if I got anything on it, I could immediately take them off and discard them in our trash, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
will say there was one day I saw the FBI searching, and there was one female FBI agent that had a big wad of black gloves sticking out of her back pocket. And I'm assuming she had them in case she saw something and needed to put the gloves on. But it's funny, I noticed it because I was like, they look like they were gonna fall out. Um,
Mhm.
and even we bought those black gloves because we wanted to show. I don't know if I showed you, Maureen, that one day, but we bought them because we wanted to show them in our stories, like, hey, gloves like this. And we were so careful. I was like, we better not drop any of these gloves. You know what I mean? Like
You're in
what?
enough trouble already, Brian. You
Yeah,
better.
exactly. I'm like, it'll be just my luck. There'll be my DNA on the, on the gloves. But anyway, I was surprised to see her with those gloves hanging out the back pocket like that, especially because the guy was wearing black. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
what were
I
you
would.
going to say though, Morgan? Sorry.
Along Maureen's lines. I mean, there are black gloves. You can purchase them, generally speaking, for the exact reason that Maureen said we don't. A lighter colored glove shows if we have any fluids on our hands, when they get covered in black powder for processing for prints. Like, you can obviously see how much is on your gloves. So you comparison.
So we developed all of them, collected all of them, and turned them into the case agents. So under a toilet, well, that's assuming someone would raise the toilet seat, but in a situation like this. But that guy was in there for 41 minutes. Whatever the heck he was doing, I mean, did he sit down and eat a meal? I would definitely test the handle of the refrigerator because you'd be surprised how many people, you know, take a powder after they do some nefarious deed. Saliva all over those gloves. And the
That'd be nasty. I'm thinking about. She said lift up the toilet. I'm just thinking about like, ew, that's nasty.
transfer for that could be pretty significant, right, Morgan?
Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult too because his gloves were on before he came up to the door. So, what has he touched without gloves? Did he touch that backpack while he was preparing it and transferring his skin cells onto the backpack? And then he touches the backpack with his gloves. He's now transferred that DNA onto his gloves that then could be transferred onto the door handle or somewhere inside of the house. Like, it's easily transferable, which is what we see in law enforcement, especially with touch DNA. It's not a large like wet sample, blood, semen, saliva. It's a very free, lightweight sample that can travel on. And then I put a mask on. All I'm doing is touching my face, touching my hair, touching my ears. So you want to do it in a systematic order. If he put that mask on or he's worn it before and then he's now puts on his gloves, but he's going and touching that mask that's on his face, or he coughs or anything, sneezes, anything, he potentially is transferring that DNA onto those gloves that's getting transferred throughout the house.
What were you going to say, Maureen?
If let's say you go in the bathroom and the medicine cabinet is slightly ajar, you're going to stand there for a moment and imagine, where do I think this guy touched this thing? Where do I think he touched it?
I hope they counted her pills to make sure, like, maybe he took some of them.
And then you may turn out the lights and use an alternate light source. You may just use a really good flashlight, but you're going to then start looking for fingerprints around that door. You're going to, we didn't have the video of how he tried to enter the house, but you can see now he's like a fat finger dude with those double gloves on. And I think the gloves he had under the nitro ones were like those neoprene ones that you get pretty much anywhere, including Walmart. And because they looked thick, they looked squishy, but they didn't look that thick and squishy. So anyhow, you're thinking, where would a guy with those type of gloves on with that size hand, where would he grab? And then you go and look for that for the DNA, or you're not going to find fingerprints. But back then, they could have been looking for fingerprints because they didn't know he was double gloved.
Would they be looking for fingerprints? Well, I guess if they knew he was gloved, you're right, though. The video came out later. So initially, they probably were looking for fingerprints all over the place, you think?
We still process for fingerprints a lot of times because more times than not, I cannot tell you that they take off their gloves while they're in there because they're trying to do something and they touch a few things and then they re-glove. We've had where they come in with one glove on one hand. I mean, in this case, I think we see both hands, but
because he did disconnect the her apps, her phone and her watch from her pacemaker, so he probably would have had to take off his gloves.
It's one of those things where you don't know what they did. You don't have a play-by-play, so it's better to be cautious and to process as later or weeks after.
With the blood droplets we saw, would they test every droplet, or do they just test a couple typically, Morgan?
Generally speaking, we'll only test something that's outside of the norm. So if you have a blood trail and everything's flowing in the trail, but then there's one cast off, like far to the left or far to the right, and it doesn't look like it's in the same flowing pattern as the other blood drops, we'll swab that one. Obviously, we swab the trail, but we're looking for ones that are out of the norm of the blood stain.
With all the cases that you processed over the years, Morgan, were you surprised that they cleared the crime scene so quickly initially, before the FBI even had the opportunity to come back and do their thing?
Yeah, it's always hard because what the information.
Everybody was. Thank you, Brian. 18.
For 3 weeks, America has been asking what happened to Savannah Guthrie's mom. One of those following this case closely, Dr. Phil, who spoke with Stephen Fabian about the status of the investigation.
I hit that ball.
Like the rest of America, Dr. Phil says the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mom has left him baffled. What makes this kidnapping unusual to you?
One thing a kidnapper wants to do is get rid of their abductee as quickly and quietly as they possibly can, because it's very high risk to hold their abductee. Things can go wrong. It's very concerning that they've not aggressively tried to monetize what they have, which is Nancy Guthrie.
Dr. Phil, an expert in forensic psychology, says most kidnappings last only a few days.
You have to have somewhere to keep them, right? Someone has to monitor them the entire time. They have to be fed, and if they have medical needs, that has to be attended to, because they're of little or no value if they are deceased.
As these weeks go by, there are a lot of theories out there. One is, could this be some sort of revenge plot on Savannah Guthrie?
That would surprise me if that was the case, but those of us that are in the media, we're always subject to that.
When I watch that,
it's hard for me to think it was something against Savannah, some revenge plot, when they made it too clean. Like, you trying to send a message, you send a message, you make it messy, you kill her right there and then, and you make it like a message, not silent and mysterious.
Ring camera footage. My gut reaction was, oh, wow, we're not dealing with a professional here.
I just don't think they're very good at what they do. There were identifiable wardrobe items, the backpack, the holster, all of these things. Professionals don't do that. Well,
that means amateurs are getting away from the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff and the rest of the world. I don't know if that's a better scenario.
They're very careful. They detect where cameras are ahead of time.
Dr. Phil is covering the case on his true crime podcast, The Real Story.
Somebody has the information to solve this crime with one phone call.
To whoever has her.
What did you take away from Savannah's most recent video?
it is never too late to do the right thing.
Oh,
I
she's
think
so
Savannah
sad.
Guthrie has done about as perfect a job in managing this situation from day one as you possibly could do. She has been non-threatening. She hasn't been intimidating. She wants her mother back.
And it's never too late.
As of today, investigators.
And that's sad. Savannah looks so sad. TMZ got another letter. Somebody said, "Why won't TMZ just
sent to TMZ?
Why won't TMZ just play it at this point?" It's probably be worth it for them to just pay it and say whether like it happened or not. That's like a business expense at that point.
Me to have information on Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers. Harvey Levin of TMZ is now making a guarantee to whoever is sending these messages. He joins us now with more. All right, this is the fourth time this guy's connected with you. Fourth time. And I was very intrigued by your comments. What can you tell us about the contact and your guarantee?
Guarantee.
So we got a letter, an email this morning. And this man, it's the same person who sent all four because there's a Bitcoin address which is the same in all four. And
Australia.
he is demanding now $1,000, $50,000 up front in Bitcoin, and then he will supply the information about where Nancy is, where the kidnapper is, and then will rely on good faith on the part of the FBI to deposit the other 50. So let me first tell you what he said, and then I will tell you what we did. Okay, I'm quoting from the letter now. He said, "I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up, so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them." So this is the...
Isn't he giving it away? Like if the person is watching TV and hear the person say, "He told me to shut up," the person who kidnapped they're gonna be like, "Wait, who I tell her shut up? Oh, I told David down the street to shut up," or whatever. He gonna know who it is.
Second time he sent a letter where he's suggesting there's more than one person, but there is a main kidnapper. So he says he knows. He has a burglary conviction, he says, from 10 years ago. He seems worried about being implicated, and he doesn't trust the FBI. So what we did today, I did a social media post where I said, look, you don't trust the FBI, send us the information. We will immediately send it on to the FBI. And then if the FBI catches the kidnapper and finds Nancy, then there is a record that you were the one who did it, because we'll have that. So the FBI can't say he didn't give it to us. We have the record, and they'll end up paying. So that's what I sent. The FBI knows that I did this. They knew beforehand, did not oppose it. And that's what we did.
I'll take that.
Okay, when you say this guy had a burglary conviction, did he disclose that to you, Harvey? Or if he didn't disclose it, that would mean we probably have identified who that person is.
Welcome, Elizabeth, to the cave.
He disclosed it. He said it in the letter. Yeah. He was trying to explain why he was afraid to come forward. By the way, in my social media post, I said to him, look, if you are faking this, you're committing a federal crime. And I will say this much. He responded to that and said, I am aware of that. I am telling you the truth. So look, I know the FBI is interested in these 4 emails. They are keenly interested in that ransom note. I can tell you that. So that's where we are right now.
Well, the fact that now, for a second time, he's mentioned that there are multiple people involved is it's interesting, but it also does give hope. I mean, that's as close to proof of life we've had since the get-go as we now enter week 3.
And if, like, TMZ get the information and vouch for him, and then the FBI don't pay, that'd be like a whole big thing, and it'd be like too big for the FBI not to pay. At that point, you just got to believe they're going to pay. Otherwise, nobody will ever come forward again. TMZ going to report the FBI didn't pay the source in the Nancy Guthrie case. Will that stop people from moving forward with the FBI in the future? It'd be like too big. They probably paid him that and plus some.
3 here. Let me ask you particularly about the glove, because I know you've been doing a deep dive into that as well. And what have you discovered?
So I've talked to law enforcement about this. And look, I hope that the kidnapper dropped that glove and they find his DNA and catch him and find Nancy. I really hope that. But it is just weird to me, Sean, that if you were him and you went in the house with those gloves, with that disguise, and you somehow get Nancy in a car and start driving, the first thing you would do, even before you put the car in drive, is take the gloves off. Because how do you drive with those gloves on? So if he took the gloves off and put them on the seat, how does one of them end up in a field by the road 2 miles away? It's weird. And
They said the police have a list of 40 potential suspects.
I can tell you that
that's crazy.
People I've spoken to in law enforcement also find that weird. Obviously, there could be an explanation, and I've been told more than once, don't use logic to try and figure this out, but it's just odd to me.
Yeah, it's odd to me, too. What can you tell us about the helicopter-mounted signal sniffer to detect any signal from Guthrie's pacemaker?
Heard that, too.
I mean, what it presumes, Sean, is that she is still right in that area, and she could be. She could be. I don't think they know.
So that's a big thing. People were saying that. So they actually doing that. They have a capability of trying to pick up the frequency from her damn pacemaker.
The letter I got, the emails I got, say Mexico.
Yeah, that's pretty
again,
cool.
I don't know that this person is telling the truth, but twice they are saying Mexico. And so they're not far from the Mexican border. I think the person who is the main culprit here is from that Tucson area, especially because of their seeming ties to these television stations in Tucson. But that doesn't mean that he is holding Nancy in Tucson.
I'm pretty sure that the FBI and Trump could get the Mexican authorities to agree to, let them take a couple planes and fly over their area, see if they pick up a signal.
Well, I've always been hopeful about the Walmart connection, the masks, the clothing, the backpack, all sold exclusively at Walmart. And I'm hoping that maybe the person bought all three together or went to the same place. But I've got to imagine that they're going to be able to figure out every time they sold that kind of backpack and to who, and probably a video of it, no?
Well, yeah. And, we found this, and I believe this is the jacket. It's called an Athletic Works Fusion Knit jacket. And as you said, purchased at Walmart. So, the bonanza here is if they could find some kind of a sales receipt with both a backpack and a jacket together. That's wishful thinking, but possible. Now, it's not exclusively, some of this is not exclusively at Walmart. That's what we're being told. But it certainly is a big lead. And more than one criminal has been caught by surveillance video after purchasing items in stores. So you bet the authorities are looking at that right now.
You think that would be easy to find?
The backpack in particular was exclusive to Walmart. Is that not true?
The backpack is.
You think that this would be like pretty simple to find and easy, like somebody who bought a backpack, a certain type of backpack and a certain jacket from Walmart at the same time? You think Walmart probably would see this and like corporate would be like, we need to find that motherfucker. We need to find that receipt. Like, I don't know.
The backpack is, I can't say that for sure, actually. It is a Walmart backpack, and that's what we thought initially. I'm now not sure that's the only place. It's also a really common backpack, Sean. So, a lot of people have probably purchased this. But I think taken together, when you look at the backpack, when you look at the jacket, if you can find somebody who bought both of them, it starts to narrow the field.
All right, Harvey Levin, great work, and thanks for all you're doing. I think
TMZ need to just go on and pay that man for that information already. I'm sure they paid more for interviews. They could pay some for that information.
Savannah.
They're playing
she
you. Get
issued
real.
an Instagram post.
Get real. They playing you. It's getting harder and harder to think Nancy's alive, but I still think it for some reason.
On Sunday, it was the most recent communication, and this one seemed as close as we've had to the real Savannah, as opposed to like very, very carefully curated messaging. But I think, let's be honest, this one was carefully curated too. There's no way, given the stakes here, she would just be winging it. I wouldn't either. Be doing exactly what the FBI told me to do. But anyway, you tell me. Here she is with her message on Sunday.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late.
Let it go.
And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
That sounds like a plea to somebody specific.
Oh, I feel for her. I feel for her family. You can see the tears in her eyes. You can see just the wear and tear on her emotionally. You know, you can see her sad eyes. And I mean, look,
yeah, you
there's
can
no
feel that
love lost
tiredness
between yours truly and NBC, as you know. But when you picture Savannah Guthrie, you picture her smiling. You're like, it's the Today Show thing. That's by design. But this has just been such a dramatic turn just into the Savannah that we all know from television. You know, there's not an iota in there of joy or happiness, not right now. How could there be when you don't know what's happened to your mom, when you're getting to the point where many are starting to presume she's dead, she's been murdered, or allowed to die in captivity. But it definitely seems like she's speaking to the abductor, you know, trying to say like, almost like I forgive you. She didn't say that, but like, I believe there's goodness in you. Please consider giving her back to me, like begging. It's basically she's asking for mercy and saying kind of, I don't think you're evil.
So they just not gonna pay the ransom, huh? They said F the ransom.
Please give me my mom back. You know, please. You could still do the right thing. Like, I still believe in human goodness. And this could be potentially very effective if indeed her mother's in the custody of a Savannah Guthrie stalker, you know, which she could be. That is still very much a possible lane. I mean, you've got the family member lane. Is it Tommaso? Is it somebody else in the family? You've got the stalker lane. Is it somebody who is obsessed with Savannah? You've got the burglary or general like Tucson thief lane. Somebody there who was like looking to steal or do something else and wound up, you know, just getting over his skis and panicked and took Nancy Guthrie. No. You've got the disgruntled landscaper. She didn't tip. They had a spat lane, you know, like revenge, but not against Savannah, against Nancy. But if we're in lane number 2, the Savannah stalker lane, that's a very effective message. That's like her, you know, direct to cam, without the brother and sister, a little makeup on, saying, I believe you might be a good person. And maybe you just got confused and got a little panicked. And it's not too late for you. You know, it's not too late for you to do what's right. I still have hope. I still have belief, you know, an emotional connection, if you will, where she says it. Well, I'm just pulling up. It's been 2 weeks and our mom was taken. Still have hope, still believe. Whoever has her or knows where she is. So appealing not only to the abductor, but to those who, because you know as well as I do, it's not just the abductor who knows where Nancy Guthrie is. Absolutely not. And then even going so far to say, you're not lost or alone. You're not lost or alone. Like a psychological appeal. If you're feeling, I mean, because of course, who would do this, right? Who would do such a thing? Indeed, somebody who would have to be feeling lost, alone, possibly, or just diabolical. But she's going the nicer route, you know, trying to appeal to their better angels, to their sense of decency, morality, and mercy. International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There's a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And the next one is right for you.
Selling gold. This whole thing is sad, man. Just like take the life out you. Like, it's, it's weird that the sheriff cleared them.
Years to solve this case and is now reporting, complaining about the exhausting investigation.
Everybody says Megyn Kelly. Well, not everybody, but at least good 3 or 4 people say Megyn Kelly evil.
Investigation here with reaction. Former Deputy Director of the FBI, Fox News contributor Dan Bongino. I think the year that you spent as the Deputy FBI Director, we talked once or twice about the fact that you worked Saturday and Sunday and all night, and then, you know, got no sleep doing that job. I didn't particularly like that comment. Why would he say we may not find out for a year from now? That bothered me.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure why he would say that. I mean, it really destroys the morale of the people busting their ass to try to get this perp to say things like that. And Sean, listen, the cooperation here has not been spectacular. I mean, the decision to send this DNA sample to a private lab was just disastrous. I mean, I'm not telling you that this is this never happens. It does happen. The problem is the FBI does not typically accept DNA once the sample's properly processed from private labs. It has to be typically an accredited forensics lab. So what you're looking at now is another delay, as the private lab will likely have to send it back to Arizona to submit it into CODIS. So it was just unnecessary. I don't see what this sheriff, you know, and again, on Monday morning.
That's crazy. So the Pima County Sheriff send it to this private lab in Florida instead of straight to Quantico. And now the lab in Florida can't send it to, with the results, straight to the FBI in Quantico. They got to send it back to Tucson. Tucson put it in the system, and then the FBI grab it from their system. Like the FBI, like, we don't want to catch cooties from outside entities.
Morning quarterbacking, whatever. We're trying to find an 84-year-old lady, who was the subject of an unspeakable tragedy, it appears at this point. What the hell, man? I mean, just send it to the FBI lab. Why introduce another variable you don't need in this?
You know, we're learning a lot about the FBI's capability. We wouldn't have that doorbell video but for the FBI getting involved. And it's even worse than that, Dan. I have friends at the FBI, and they were very clear to me, although they didn't really want me to talk about it early on when this case broke out, that they were purposely pushing the FBI out of the way. And they felt like, no, we can handle this. Well, they can handle it. They don't have the capability that the FBI does. For example, I would imagine that this helicopter-mounted signal sniffer.
Yeah, I wonder if she allowed to.
And their ability to do AI reverse lighting and their ability to work with Google and recover that videotape that has been probably the best piece of evidence, the biggest break we've had, all came from the FBI, didn't it?
Yeah, you know, I really wish that blue fly technology would not have gotten out there. I don't know where that came from. I know a lot of people in the FBI are not happy that got out there. But that should not have gotten out there. That is not the kind of tech you want to expose to the public. But once it's out there, and then it's just open season. But here's the difference. Having been a police officer with the NYPD and worked with the FBI and the Secret Service at the federal level, it's not a better or worse thing. I want to be clear. The cops on the street, the homicide investigators on the street who've interviewed 20 or 30 murderers are the best and the best of the best. I'll take them over some of our own agents at times. We have TFOs, task force officers. We have a guy in Miami. He's been down there 38 years. He's works for the Miami PD. The guy's amazing. I'll take him 10 out of 10 times. But when it comes to technical expertise, the FBI has this specialization of labor where that is exactly what those people do, and it's only what they do. You're not out there investigating a robbery one day, like say a deputy or a police officer, and then next day, a missing, and then the next day, another. You're not. You're doing one.
He's saying a lot.
Thing. You have FBI specialists who look specifically at CODIS processing, DNA processing. Then you have others in OTD and our lab division, the technical folks. That's all they do. They look at specific things. You have people in our digital enhancement video teams that's all they do is enhance digital video. So it's not a better or worse thing at all. It's just a matter of specialization of labor. And that's why it doesn't make any sense that this sheriff out there is not taking advantage of specific taxpayer-funded laboratory technologies that the FBI specializes in. It makes zero sense.
How is it that Harvey Levin, who I've known for many years, many decades, has 4 emails from a guy claiming to know the whereabouts, and he just wants the money to give the information up because he feels he's going to have to go into hiding? That's what he said initially. How is it 4 separate emails with a Bitcoin account attributed to each one, the same account? How come we can't find that person based on that email or the 4 emails now?
Well, we're assuming they haven't. I don't want to make that assumption. And there's a couple other assumptions built into this as well. Listen, I live by Occam's razor, right? Keep it simple, stupid. I try not to assume too much. There's a lot of assumptions built in it. There's an assumption that that's connected to the case. It may be, it may not. I don't know that. Maybe this guy is just.
Yeah, last time we was on, they said, oh, the YouTuber Dolly, he's seen somebody off themselves in a Range Rover. No, the dude in the Range Rover was arrested. He's seen somebody that was a victim of a hit and run in the street. There was nobody who shot themselves. It wasn't connected to Nancy Guthrie. No, it was just some, I guess, a misunderstanding, I guess.
Playing TMZ. I don't know. Supposedly he has some information that they weren't found elsewhere. I'm not saying that that's the case. Maybe it's not related. Maybe it is. But the FBI is not, at least when I was there, and I know with Cash there now, they're not in the habit of turning down information. If Harvey Levin or TMZ has information and they can get it and pass it off to the FBI, sometimes there's chain of custody issues with things like that when it comes to evidence and other things. But, we're not in the process of turning down tips. They'll take it from anyone. And if the information turns out to, have a spine to it, then great. I mean, no one's interested in credit. Who cares about credit? Let's just find this woman or find the perp and get this thing solved.
You have the president.
Hold on. What do you make of the?
You have the president of the United States involved. They want credit.
Sheriff putting out that statement, saying, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in the case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and are victims in the case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it's cruel.
I think that's a weird statement when you got a list of 40 potential suspects, to say anybody is not a suspect is wrong.
Is it usually the habit of law enforcement? Go ahead.
Yeah, I see a couple different scenarios here. Number one, maybe the family all have airtight alibis. I know they were looked at. I'm sure of. They were looked into. So scenario one, they have airtight alibis. Scenario two, they maybe have an informant. I noticed that some of these people who were detained and some of the vehicles that were looked at and some of the raids that were conducted, again, assuming the obvious, there may be an informant on this who had some information, someone who may have been locked up earlier. So he was able to eliminate the family. There's a couple different scenarios there. Or the third scenario is they have potentially a subject in mind. Was it wise to put that out there at this point in the investigation? I'm not sure, but it's easy for me to say I'm not running the investigation right now. However, that's a pretty bold statement to put out there given the circumstances, unless you had that background information I already talked about. And if that's the case, then he's right. I'm dealing with some variables I don't know.
And we all owe Tommaso and his bandmates apologies.
The latest last night is something that we have news on.
It's the same one. Oh.
There's a local reporter who works for Arizona Family named Brianna Whitney, who reported that, quote, "We can now confirm through an inside source," that's all she says, inside source, "investigators believe Nancy Guthrie abduction was intended burglary, and DNA evidence is currently being tested from the Range Rover that was seen being towed away on Friday." The Range Rover being towed away on Friday is a reference to that Friday night raid. This happened late into the evening Friday, where the feds executed a search warrant on a home with a female and a male, believed to be mother-son, and then also stopped a Range Rover, a dark gray Range Rover described
by Clovers, right?
By some as silver, though, which we believe he was also connected to the people who were inside that house. It's unconfirmed. That's our understanding, though. And it seems that they may have had a lead directing them to one member of this family, and then covered the field with a search warrant on somebody driving the car, and then a mother-son, we believe, again, pair inside the home, and they searched the home.
So that's twice, this guy and Carlos, where they took the suspect and his family. So they taking everybody.
No arrests were made. And that's still being investigated, but doesn't look like, at least on first glance, they found their man. And they don't think they found their man. But what she's reporting, this Brianna Whitney, is that DNA evidence is currently being tested from that Range Rover that was seen being towed away on Friday. Okay, so that's still an open question. But the part about we can now confirm through an inside source that investigators believe the Guthrie abduction was an intended burglary. To say it's gotten pushback would be to undermine what's actually happened now. Both Michael Ruiz of Fox News Digital and Matt Finn of Fox News and my own sourcing has all said that's not the case. Here's Michael Ruiz. Authorities are distancing themselves from fresh reporting suggesting the Guthrie abduction is believed to be a burglary gone wrong, and that the widespread investigative belief, Brianna also reported this, is that Nancy, quote, could be alive. So they're distancing.
I think so too. What's a burglary gone wrong? So you go in there to burglarize, and you say, "Oh my God, there's a lady here. Let's take her." Don't take nothing else. Still, don't burglarize nothing, but you just leave everything and take her as a kidnapping. So I guess they was like, "Oh my God, yes, there's a lady here. We could kidnap somebody. Leave all the stuff that's worth anything." That don't make sense.
Distancing themselves from that. A local law enforcement source tells me this is not a working theory inside the unit, and adds that nighttime residential burglaries are rare. Sheriff Nanos also spoke with Matt Finn of FNC, quote, "Did not come from us, no idea, and even though that is one of many possibilities, we would never speculate such a thing. We will let the evidence take us to motive." No suspects have been publicly identified. As you know, the FBI is currently awaiting additional test results on a glove. I'll get to that in a second.
Does that mean inside job, intended burglary?
Then Matt Finn reporting, the FBI tells me it has no clue where that came from, that they are leaning toward this being a burglary gone bad. So the FBI is pushing back on this with two sources at Fox. I've also gotten pushback on this with my own sources connected to the case. I don't know this reporter, Brianna. She's been good so far, but everybody gets things wrong in the course of an investigation when we're trying to work our sources and get a lead. As she describes hers source, it's just inside source. Don't know what that means, but I think the two reporters at Fox and yours truly all have law enforcement sources, all of whom have told us that's not the case. So I would take that with a hefty grain of salt that they're now looking at this as some sort of burglary gone bad. The other big reported news yesterday came out of NBC and Tom Winter, who reported that authorities are leaning away from the Friday night guy. Again, this is the theory that there's one guy who was suspected, and we don't know why. Maybe it was cell phone tower data that he was near Nancy on the night in question. Maybe it was a tip that was called in. Maybe he looked like the porch man. Maybe he looked like one of the other men that we saw on people's porches last week via Ring video. But something led them to this one man, and it appears his family around him. And
that's like, the sheriff is severely overreacting. He just need to know how to go up to a couple people or go up to people with two detectives and like two plain clothes and like, hey, can we talk to you for a second? All this raiding people's houses is and being wrong is crazy.
NBC's Tom Winter reporting that the officials are leaning away from that guy, away from Carlos, poor Carlos, the DoorDash man who I thought we'd already ruled him out, but he's reporting that indeed they are leaning away. And he also added that they are leaning away from relatives of Nancy Guthrie, which is an interesting way of phrasing it. What does that mean? Savannah, Annie, does it include the son-in-law, Tommaso, who's married to Annie? You could thread that needle such that it doesn't, but I think relatives would fairly encompass the son-in-law. And that does not dovetail with our own reporting today. We have contacted our law enforcement sources, and we have been steered off of that, saying no one has been cleared. They have not moved away from anyone. And until they have a perpetrator under arrest, assume everyone is still under scrutiny.
That's a big ass gap between the FBI and the sheriff right there.
So, the NBC report may have led to some in the Guthrie family feeling a bit relieved this morning. I'm here to tell you they should not feel relieved. Everyone is still under scrutiny until someone is in handcuffs.
She's saying Tommaso could still be you, brother, man.
And that includes members of the Guthrie family. Sorry, but that's the truth. And I trust my source absolutely. Okay? This is somebody with impeccable credentials and is in a position to know. And so I wouldn't be getting too relieved if I were anybody in the Guthrie family or elsewhere for that matter. We've never suggested it has to be this guy Tommaso. We haven't suggested that he's off the hook either. So I think keep an open mind. Want to keep going now on the reporting. Okay. That Range Rover that was stopped during the traffic stop the other night. I mean, it is of interest, like what led them to this Range Rover. It was stopped in a Culver's parking lot about 2 hours from Nancy Guthrie's home. And the person who was driving it was detained, was handcuffed, and there was plenty of video of the FBI interviewing this man. I think it was the FBI, it was a federal warrant, but the local law enforcement, I believe, was also in the field. He was later released. No arrests made, and the vehicle has been impounded and sealed. So they are still trying to extract DNA or other evidence from that vehicle, and who knows whether that one could eventually pan out. I'm drinking more coffee right now because did you guys see the report that those who drank 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day staved off dementia? Like 70% of them. It was crazy. Like the numbers. Check Alex Berenson's X feed because he tweeted out the drink your coffee. It's amazing.
It's like an ad.
Missing. Yesterday was the 2-week anniversary, if you will, forgive the term, of when she was discovered missing. It was overnight Saturday into Sunday, January 31st into.
So it's like everything that was reported on that night, a lot of it was wrong when they did that raid.
We are following Some breaking news in the Nancy Guthrie case, and I did want to share this with you. This is from the New York Post, stating that Trump is telling the New York Post that he wants the death. Some breaking news in the Nancy Guthrie case, and I did want to share.
President saying he want the death penalty for him. They ain't gonna be able to find a jury in America that's not tainted.
He wants the death penalty for Nancy Guthrie's kidnappers if she isn't returned alive. And I did want to share a little bit more about that as we take a look at some file video. But this, according to the New York Post, President Trump saying that those responsible for kidnapping Nancy Guthrie must release her unharmed, or they will face the most severe federal penalties. In a very brief phone interview, Trump said that he would instruct the Justice Department to seek the death penalty if Nancy Guthrie is killed. And a little bit more information on that. Also, President Trump saying that the abductors would face very, very severe, the most severe federal consequences if Nancy Guthrie is found dead after she was abducted from her home outside Tucson, Arizona on February 1st. So when asked if that meant the DOJ would request the death penalty, President Trump said, the most. That's true. Federal charges are common in high-profile cases, particularly if there is an interstate component or if a federal statute is violated. Arizona has the death penalty, but many of the inmates on the state's death row have been there for decades. Arizona carrying out just two.
I know. I'm about to look. I'm about to look up JLR investigates. I know he went off, but it's getting late. I had to look, though. I had to look. I can't go 2 days without looking. And I knew half the information was wrong from the other day. Some people say Dolly was lying, that he faked, like, seeing it. Oh. 10 hours. Crazy.
Oh, but somebody could have gave it to him. Somebody else could have bought it for him.
Day 16.
Traffic jam here, so I'm just going to whip around, turn around, and avoid the traffic jam.
The Family First interview struck me, leading me to suspect that the body language, the way they expressed their feelings and concerns, didn't seem too sincere to me in my thoughts. Yeah, most people pointed to the sister Annie. Weirdos in the cave. I feel like the fact that they covered up who took Nancy home, remember that was after the sheriff said Tomas did. Who's to say he left at that time? Yeah, it took 2 minutes for it to close. Who knows what happened?
Hello? Shall we?
Supposedly it was somebody else arrested. Hold on. I seen the part earlier when I was watching.
Are you in there? All right, cool.
They went to somebody's house. Luke. Oh, let me see Nancy.
I wanted to come on and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope.
Savannah Guthrie, beaten down, exhausted, obviously not eating, appeals to the essential goodness, she says, that is in every human being, begging them, it's not too late to do the right thing. Obviously stating, she believes her mother, Nancy, is alive. Also in this hour, breaking developments over the last weekend, over the last day. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. DNA, tell me everything.
All right, starting at the beginning, Nancy. DNA found at Nancy Guthrie's home has been determined to belong to someone not in close contact with Nancy Guthrie. This is explosive information, as it's the first indicator we have that DNA belonging to someone not related, not in close contact with Nancy, found at the home. Nancy, we also have the glove. The glove found about 1.5 miles from Nancy's home. That too is being tested, and that too has male DNA. The glove with the DNA looks like what the glove we saw in the surveillance video from the Nest camera on Nancy Guthrie's front door. That glove that we saw in that video is what appears to be the glove found in the desert 1.5 miles from her home with male DNA. So those are your two big DNA explosions right now in the investigation.
That's right. The glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home, about 1.5 miles from her home, does contain DNA evidence. All those so-called experts claiming it would not contain DNA are wrong. Also, the glove found with DNA evidence on it appears to be what the suspect in the video was wearing, according to the FBI.
But it's still a long shot that it belonged to this guy. Now, if it's a person's DNA and Nancy's DNA on that glove, then that's a fucking smoking gun.
Black glove found near Nancy Guthrie's home contains DNA evidence, and it is being tested. We could be hours away from that DNA match. And again, the FBI says the glove appears to match the gloves worn by the suspect on Nancy Guthrie's porch.
No, the ransom wasn't paid. The last thing, no, nothing else from the kidnapper. The last thing that was said, the only person that's been sending something into TMZ is the guy that says, "Hey, pay me a Bitcoin and I'll tell you the kidnapper's name." That's the only thing that's really new. And then basically TMZ offered them. They said, "Hey, well, tell us, and then we'll report to the FBI, and then we'll let them know your name. So then when the person get arrested, like, the FBI gonna pay. Otherwise, we're gonna be like, hey, why wouldn't y'all pay this guy who gave this money?" So it's like a sure thing because TMZ gonna be the middleman. And then the people that was, so it's been two set of people. First time it was Carlos and his family wrongfully swatted, and then now somebody else, and the guy that was in a Range Rover and his family, I guess, was taken and then stopped and given back. They were detained, not arrested. They were detained and then released. So the sheriff department just going off on whoever's a suspect. And supposedly they're going to gun shops with 40 different names saying, hey, any of these 40 people come in here and get a gun recently? That's a lot of potential suspects. One thing for sure, if a Ring camera picks up anybody, it seems a notification. So I know she got that notification. Yeah, but they wasn't even worried about it. Look at the way they're moving. These people weren't even worried about it. Like, they knew that nothing would happen. They see the camera, so they know like it would have already gave off the notification. They weren't even worried about it. Like, that's why it seemed like an inside job. They like, oh, we know nobody's coming to it. Even if we know an 84-year-old person in here, oh, we know her family ain't get it. We know she ain't here with nobody else. Oh, we know she can't walk. But if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Yeah, it wasn't found. That was another thing. They were saying it was found. It was a glove found at her house. No, the sheriff said no glove was found at her house. Otherwise, the sheriff probably came out and said that because it would have looked bad on him. Hey, sheriff, y'all been in that house for like 12 days at that time. Yeah, I just found in that glove. He like, nah, that shit wasn't in the house. But they send the glove to the Florida place, the private lab, and they found DNA. But the private lab can't just send it to the FBI and Quantico to put it in CODIS, their little database, because the FBI don't accept blood or sample or DNA from third-party labs. So the lab has to send it back to Pima County. Pima County has to put it in their system, and then the FBI can pull it from their system. You think if Cash Patel called, like, hey, listen, just for this one time, like I'm authorizing you to just send it straight, talk to each other. But nah, they gotta fucking play games.
This guy we're showing you right now, the one with the DNA profile recovered, is different from other gloves. What does that mean? That it is different from other gloves? Dave Mack, what other gloves?
The 17 other gloves they found there that they said is from searchers. Isn't that rule? People come out to help search for items and anything on the ground, and you have 17 or more people that fucking just littered everywhere.
Nancy, there have been reportedly 16 other gloves, maybe even more, that have been found in this investigation. But Nancy, the 16 gloves that have been found range in different colors, from red to brown to black. They range in the different types of gloves that are available.
Straight out to veteran trial lawyer Josh Colesrud joining us, now criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, founder Colesrud Law Offices. He's joining us from that jurisdiction, Arizona. Josh, in my mind, I have leaped forward to a potential trial. What a field day the defense will have with these 16 gloves that are unrelated to the perp on the front porch. Because just as the defense was going to do in the Brian Kohberger case with the glove laying out in the parking lot, it's snowing, somebody dropped their glove out there, that was going to be the SOD, some other dude that did it, right? So I'm happy, I'm thrilled we found a glove that seems to match the one, and you and I talked about it, how sweaty his hands must have gotten during all that, and the scenario of him stripping it off and throwing it out the window as he leaves the scene. But the other gloves are a problem, Colesrud.
They are a huge problem for the prosecution. You know, one of the most important things for a prosecutor is the ability to prove chain of custody, to be able to show that.
Yeah, you would think that her kids that are less than 10 minutes away would do the same thing. So if something happened,
this is the item that we're saying that it is. And when you have, I can't believe this, 16 other gloves that were dropped there by, I don't know, volunteers or people working for law enforcement. Like it's beyond imagination that they could do this and contaminate the crime scene.
Straight out to Tammy Ballard joining us. Tammy is a DNA crime scene consultant, crime scene investigation and reconstruction expert. Important tonight, DNA criminalist for the San Diego Police Crime Lab. Tammy Ballard, this is a bombshell. If these are the gloves worn in the video, let's see the video again. And according to police sources, the perp was wearing gloves under the gloves.
Definitely.
We don't know that that's true. Whatever
Definitely.
the case, DNA has been found on these gloves, Tammy Ballard, and it is male DNA. What comes next?
Next is the CODIS search. So that's going to be the important search. And it sounds like that's going to happen in real time, something like today. And then they'll know if they have some sort of direction to go with that search if there's a hit. If not, the next step would intuitively be, can we start with the genealogy process and go down that path with a different DNA profile from the same glove? So hopefully it was a single source enough profile and there's DNA remaining so that they might have to be able to share that DNA with that second process for genealogy. But it can be a multi-pronged approach to identify the individual as fast as possible.
Tammy Ballard, what is an STR analysis?
That is what I would consider your standard DNA testing. Most forensic laboratories across the country, that is what we have all used. Stands for short tandem repeat testing. Very distinct, regulated, validated locations of DNA that are being tested for potential comparison to suspects or uploads into databases.
Would this be a short tandem DNA test, a short tandem repeat?
Yes, it is. This is a traditional STR profile. That is what all of the forensic laboratories are using to compare to a potential suspect.
Okay, then we will take the STR results and put it into CODIS. Straight out to Brian Fitzgibbons, joining us, Director Operations, USPA Nationwide Security. His specialty, finding missing people. He leads a team of investigators around the world locating missing people. Who is in CODIS?
Yeah, so you're going to have everybody in CODIS that law enforcement has had a sample from, or the FBI has loaded into that system. So there's going to be a limited, it's a vast number of samples, but it is limited in the sense. And Tammy touched on this, that the next step is that forensic genetic genealogy analysis, where you're taking in other sources like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, all those private genetic testing organizations.
There's so many people that use Ancestry.com and 21andMe and whatever it is. That the FBI is really using it to solve cases and stuff, especially cold cases. You could be like, oh, let's see, the killer or the rapist never got in trouble, but he left a piece of hair behind in 1970, and then they just test it and be like, oh, it's related to Mary Sue, and Mary Sue, if you look back, her uncle was this guy who was questioned by the police, and it'd be crazy.
Where investigators will be able to hopefully try to map who this is.
Yes, CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System, an acronym. CODIS is FBI managed. It's software, and it operates on local, state, and national DNA databases. It IDs suspects, and they do that by comparing convicted offenders, not necessarily just felons, misdemeanors sometimes too, all of them across the country, missing people, and DNA found on crime scenes. Brian Kohberger's DNA is now in CODIS. Now, here's the problem with CODIS, and CODIS is fantastic. It matches DNA profiles, even from unsolved cases, to individuals and other crime scenes. It also uses the 20-core short tandem repeat genetic markers. Here's the thing. The only people in CODIS, generally speaking, are convicts. So, if the perp is not already convicted, then once you put the DNA into CODIS. You may not get an identical match, but you may get an match, which would mean the perp is related to the person in CODIS. It could be a brother, a cousin, a dad, a son, a nephew, a distant nephew, a distant cousin.
That's big right there.
Get a quasi-match. And that is what happened in Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer. Once we got a little
look at that. Somebody said that.
bit of we had to go back and do genetic genealogy. But right now in CODIS, we will get a match of sorts if there's a relative in CODIS. Tammy Ballard, DNA expert, isn't that true?
Yes, it is going to be a different kind of search in the CODIS database, but first and foremost, you're going to be comparing that traditional STR profile from this unknown male to convicted offenders who's in this database, but also other forensic unknown cases. So samples from other cases that may have identified a potential perpetrator could also be related to this case. So there is more information to glean from that. Then if you would want to do the familial testing right after that, that's going to be another round of testing and comparison. But again, this laboratory that is doing the work does have that in their wheelhouse. So
late night SWAT operation just before midnight. We've got SWAT descending on a home in Tucson, and they get 3 people detained, 2 guys and their mom, apparently.
Wow.
But while this is going on, the SWAT team at the house, about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home, the FBI has a Range Rover pulled over in a parking lot of a restaurant. That Range Rover person is also detained. So we've got 4 people detained at the same time by SWAT and the FBI and deputies.
And none of them died. There was 2 hit and runs yesterday in Tucson. That's crazy. And I guess that guy Dolly seen one of them.
We've got the Range Rover, a gray Range Rover that is searched while officers actually held up like a white sheet.
And then people thought this was like maybe a body or something. Like, oh my God. Like, why are they doing the extra? They doing the extra just to search for shit. Like, that's crazy.
Taking the view from cameras to see what they were looking for in the back of that SUV, the Range Rover. And they actually swarmed in both these locations. They interviewed all 3 at the house. They interviewed the Range Rover guy. And then, Nancy, they towed the Range Rover away and let everybody go.
That's crazy. And that community, the Catalina Foothills, the area has I guess an agreement with the U of A over there, and not to have too many lights because it mess up the natural like skylight, and they like the astronomy type places or whatever at the U of A. They got like a big telescope that see out, and I guess they use that area, so they got an agreement. It's so rural out there, like the homes are not really close to each other. For the Golden Gates murder, his daughter had to get private detective to prove his innocence. Turned out to be it was his cousin that was a cop. Man, that's crazy.
Okay, I don't like the way you said that, Dave Mack. I know, guys, you're seeing video from our friends, those detained over the weekend that have now been released through cell phone data. Explain.
In these cases, we do a tower dump where we're getting probably thousands of phones that might have been in that area around the time Nancy Guthrie went missing. So we're now finally starting to get through all that data, trying to figure out which ones are normally there, like neighbors, and which ones may have been passing through. And then once you get the phone number, then you have to figure out, all right, who's actually using this phone number? Is it a fake name on the subscriber? So then you have to figure out, all right, where may that phone be? And I suspect that these stops, the last couple you were just talking about, are results of either LPRs or phones being in the area. Now they're just trying to track it down, see who's actually using those phones, and if they're related to the Nancy Guthrie case.
But you just can't keep taking out the fucking SWAT team. That's the issue. It's not the issue. They could talk to 100 people, but you can't keep taking out the SWAT team and making this big hoorah about it. Search warrant is an invasion of privacy permitted by the court. The privacy still needs protected. They surely didn't take their phones along. Yeah. Just like they did to the other guy, Carlos. Took his phone. Here's TMZ just for y'all that didn't hear.
It is Monday morning. We have received a fourth letter from the same person who says that he knows where Nancy Guthrie is and he wants money in return for the information. Essentially, he wants the reward. So I have something to say to you, and I've already talked to the FBI about this, that if you are not real, you're committing a crime, and you should know that. And this is a serious federal crime. If you are real, this is the fourth letter you've sent, and I should tell everybody that in this letter, it says, I know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up, so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them. This is the second time he has referred to more than one person involved in this. He said there is a main person and there are others, and he said it here. He is saying that Nancy was taken to Mexico. Now, this is what he's saying.
If it were your mother missing, would you still be worried about invasion of privacy? But still, that shouldn't matter, though. That's why, as everybody else, the people, we say, hey, we understand that it's your mother and you don't care, but the way the world works, we got to keep this order and checks and balance. That's how we talk to people, because he might be out of his mind because it's his family. Just people opinion, Elizabeth. Because they say like the son Tommaso was the last one to drop her off at the house, and it's things saying that Tommaso might be in debt to some casinos in Mexico. And then it's like the way they did it, they knew that there was like no security system. They knew that the ring wasn't gonna go off or the camera, nobody was coming. And then it looks like they probably went to the front, took down the camera, then went to the back, hit the light, took down that camera, and then basically smashed in the back door because the front door wasn't touched because it got that big security gate. Went through the back door, grabbed Nancy, went out the front door, took the car and went. Okay, Rambo. Did Nancy have a life insurance policy? I guess they would know. They didn't tell us.
Not going to vouch for him, but this is the fourth letter. We have sent them all on to the FBI. And he also says one of the reasons he's worried about coming forward is he has a record. He has a burglary on his record from 10 years ago. So I don't know if you're real or not if you're watching this, but if you are, and I have told the FBI that we're going to do this, they know this, that if you're worried about getting this money and you really do have this information, send it to us. You're sending us these letters. Send it to us. We will forward it to the FBI. And that way there's a record that we have that you supplied this information. If they find her and they find the kidnapper, then at least there is evidence, because we have it, that you're the one who provided the information. So this is a way for you to get that money if this really is legitimate. Send.
And they'll have to pay you, otherwise their credibility would just go out the fucking straight down to hell. And nobody would ever take the risk. Like, it would be a PR nightmare for the FBI. That's why I said they probably would throw even more on top.
Us the information, we will pass it on to the FBI. Okay, that said, couple of points. One is the glove. I hope that glove has DNA that leads authorities to this kidnapper. But it is weird to me, because if somebody is at that house and they take Nancy and they get in a car to drive off, the first thing they're going to do is take the gloves off, because it's real hard to drive with gloves like that. And if the gloves go off and they're placed in the car, how does it end up 2 miles away on the side of the road?
Yeah.
It just is weird.
That they took all these precautions to wear all these things and the ski mask and the gloves, and then as soon as they on the way out, the exit, they smooth, clean exit, leave. They left no trace of themselves. They just become reckless and throw the gloves out the window.
Is OJ-esque and doesn't make sense. And the other thing is that, you know, there are different theories here about, was this a burglary, was this a ransom? As you know, we and several others have received ransom notes, and they
known for not paying, but that's why TMZ is going to be the middleman. So when TMZ keep reporting and make it, hey, the FBI did not pay the man and that responsible for bringing home Nancy Guthrie, the man was scared and he told us, now they're going to have to answer for that.
The FBI is keenly interested in these notes, I can tell you that. This seems a weird type of burglary, because if it were a burglary, number one, why would somebody be dressed head to toe that way? And number two, if it's a burglary and somebody wants to go in and root around for jewelry or whatever, it would seem to be difficult opening drawers and grabbing things with gloves like that. And if you take the gloves off, then you're going to put your fingerprints on something. So what's the point of gloves in the first place? So this does not feel like a burglary, somebody dressed head to toe with gloves like that. And if it were a burglary, you know, the easiest thing to do, if they knew anything about Nancy, is she goes to church. They could have just gone in on Sunday morning when she was at church. So this just doesn't feel like a burglary. That's my opinion. That is not fact. I have talked to one law enforcement source who is like-minded in that. But I want to end by repeating that if the person who has sent us these 4 demand letters is real, and I'm questioning whether you are, but if you are, then send us the information. We will immediately pass it on to the FBI.
Some of y'all sound like y'all don't think that the FBI gonna pay to do. Everyone has cameras there, rubber gloves. Why is it hard to open things? I think because it looked like the person had like multiple gloves on, to the point where their hand was like stuck like this. That's why they did this, so they couldn't open them. Yeah. That day she was supposed to go to her friend's house to watch the live stream of the church in New York. Yeah, I'd be a wreck too. So far a
With
new
a 4th letter now sent to TMZ.
So we got a 4th letter. We know that the people that from that raid, they took the Range Rover, the guy by Culver's. It wasn't a white van, I guess. People were like, it was a white van outside. No, it wasn't a white van. The mom and son been arrested, but they were released too, just like Carlos. Nobody died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It was a guy that was hit in a hit and run. That happened. So none of that was correct that day. That was weird information going around. Yeah. I can't stand TMZ. Yeah. What's up? What's up? I still hope she alive. For some reason, I feel like she could still be alive. Trying to see if there's anything else. Day 16. That's what this shit is. Day 16. Oh, and they got the DNA from the glove, but it was sent to Florida. And the FBI mad because they won't accept it from the Florida lab because they don't accept third parties. So the Florida lab got to send it back to Arizona. They got to put it in the system, and then the FBI can get it. It's a lot. The chances of that fucking glove being part of this would be crazy. That's to the left. Scoliosis. Yeah, it was Lee. People try to make it seem like Dolly did it on purpose. And he cut off his stream and deleted the video.
Knowledge to definitively clear the family. Unless they know who was at that home, there's no way to absolutely clear them. Gillum's smart. I had him on my show before on JLR Investigates, Jonathan Gillum. So let's listen to Jonathan Gillum, former FBI agent. I had him on a long time ago. We talked about the Kohlberger case.
Much as we love to hate the media asking the right questions is actually a very important thing. And so trying to tell the media what questions to ask is the wrong avenue to go down. It's not like they're reaching out and personally insulting and going after the Guthrie family. So I think when we look at the statements that sheriff made and the fact that he's saying that they're cleared, that sounds to me like an emotional statement from the sheriff or a personal statement.
Yeah, the sheriff said the Guthrie family, all of them are cleared. And the FBI was like, no, nobody's cleared. Like, how could you say that? That's like, how could you just say like they all cleared? That's a big statement.
He's making, not one that is based in facts, because unless they know who was in that home, which we don't know if they know that, unless they have all of their timelines where they were, and they know for a fact that nobody hired anyone to do something, there's no way to absolutely clear them. They can say right now they're not a subject in our investigation, but to say that they're cleared, that's just not a factual statement. It's a final statement. As much as
Yeah. And if they are in Mexico like that, the guy who wants some money for to tell, he said they in Mexico. If they are, then they pretty easy to get her blood thinners over there.
Thoughts on that? And that's in reference to Sheriff Nanos clearing the family.
41 minutes and they ain't take nothing.
Yeah, there's so many. I used to go up to people and ask them questions, but I used to be like, any comment on this and any comment?
It's way too early to be clearing anybody. We don't think Savannah did it, but you still can't clear her ass.
on February 12th. It's expected to be inputted into the FBI CODIS in the near future, an FBI official says. Earlier today,
is that Nancy house?
New from the sheriff. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious, and they are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong.
I don't know.
It is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims. Plain and simple. Please.
What do y'all think? Y'all think that statement by the sheriff was reckless, clearing the family?
Tim, I want to pull up a map of Walmart because it strikes me that this is one of the biggest pieces of evidence that we have now is this backpack. And when you look at this map of
we heard that
they would
backpack.
have is
clear the Guthrie family to include all siblings and spouses.
obvious that there's an individual.
Areas maybe it does not.
If these are like bumbling buffoons, then they're making our FBI look silly as fuck. Let me see. Look at this house. This is the back of the house. See, this is the back. This is where they entered. If y'all can see that, hold on, let me make this bigger. This right here. See, this is where they smashed. This ain't have no security door in the back. But I think they came from the front. Look, if you park right here, see where this cop car at? Then there's only a camera in the back and a camera in the front. If you come up this way, and just be good, like, and never go to the front door, you wouldn't see nothing. So they came to the front, destroyed the camera, then it came to the back, boom. And then took Nancy out the front. That's what I think happened. Multiple people.
3.
It very well could, Kaylee. I mean, this is a critical piece of evidence, being able to identify that there's only a single chain or store brand that sells that. And if it's Walmart, I'm sure keeps very critical records of all their sales because they're the biggest company in the world, basically. And the database that they would have is vast. Now, there are thousands of Walmart stores around the country, so it doesn't mean he had to shop only locally. And I'm sure if they don't find what they're looking for in that immediate area, they'll spread that out. But it's great that it's only one store chain they have to worry about, not thousands of different types of stores. So there's only one database they have to query to try and find this information.
Yeah, no doubt. That is a promising
Most likely whoever did it cut their beard off by now.
That Walmart is the one store that this backpack's developed at. So we'll see about that. The DNA sample that we're looking at, and you see this map here, those red dots are the Walmart. The DNA sample that is processed through CODIS, this database with about 25 million samples. If there's not a hit there, there's voluntary swabbing that individuals can provide. You could get a warrant to swab someone, or you could go to a third party like 23andMe. Talk to me about that process, because a lot of people voluntarily give their DNA.
Yes, and so that would be a forensic genealogical search where you would actually go through databases that are not part of CODIS, not part of the FBI or any law enforcement agency, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, or a host of others. And those can be accessed sometimes with warrants, sometimes with cooperation. In a situation like this where a woman's life is hanging in the balance, a lot of times companies will cooperate with less stringent standards to help find someone like this. The individual that left that DNA on that glove may not be in one of those databases. They may never have registered with 23andMe or another company. So the possibility of finding a relative of theirs then would narrow that search. So even if serial killers have been captured, where you go out in a
was investigated for quite some time under great hardship to them. So I could see why a family would like a statement like this to be out there.
All right, so they're saying the same thing. So we cleared up a lot of information, a lot of misinformation from the other stream. Still going on. The FBI and the sheriff department still lying, saying they, hey, nothing's wrong, but obviously there is a big disconnect. Sheriff clearing the family, the FBI saying, no, don't do that. Sheriff sending the information and the glove to the private facility in Florida. The FBI, like, why you do that? Just send it to the FBI. We could have did it all here. Sheriff, there's second raid on people and that you release in less than 24 hours. So it's not like you even had, oh, we got more information and a warrant to keep them a little bit longer and question them. Nah, same night releasing these people. Now you found in gloves, there's 17 other gloves in this glove, and you just happen to find this one. That is crazy. And days later, or like almost damn near 2 weeks later, you find it. Yeah, reason to relax and go and do something stupid. Yeah, it could be possible. Yeah, it's a lot. Hopefully you're not confused now, Elizabeth. This lady still missing. They ain't paid not a lick. I guess they said they was going to pay, but I guess they never got the proof of life, so they ain't paid nothing. Please hit the thumbs up on the video, please. But I don't know. Everybody, we're not confused no more, so hopefully there's something tomorrow or the next day. The sheriff said this could take weeks, months, years, and people are like, oh my God, years, we're losing motivation. So I don't know. 40 people, so we'll see what comes of that tomorrow. They're going around a different gun store with a list of 40 people and saying, hey, did any of these people come in here and buy guns? That's scary that like 40 people, just like anybody that came in contact with this woman in the last like fucking year probably is just a suspect. So if they all suspect, then you damn sure ain't ruling out the family and the last person to see her. How could you rule out the last person to see her, the son-in-law? At any point, how could you rule that out? Yeah. Every time we try to say we're so technologically advanced, something like this happened to just humble us. Like, sit down. Relax. All right, Cave Dwellers, listen, hit that like button. Subscribe for me. Cave Dwellers, we're going to be doing this and a lot more other cases as this wind down and then some information get repetitive. I'm not jumping on the story every day, and it's nothing actually progressing. So there's a lot of other court case, Epstein stuff, Pam Bondi stuff. I'm going to be looking at that stuff too. Tell me it's the brother-in-law and he somehow somebody else. Now, we don't know the reason, but the brother-in-law seemed to have a lot of different angles he could come from. Him and the wife, him and the bandmate, something, but who knows? And it seems like the ransoms, I guess, were fake, which is weird on itself to have multiple people try to, random people that don't know each other, all kind of profit from this tragedy. It's crazy. But let me know. Thank you, Elizabeth. Y'all get some rest now. See y'all in the cave tomorrow.